Alright, welcome back to Racing Rambles. Today I'm going to take a look at the Formula E powertrains so far this season. So in Formula E this year we've had 5 rounds spread across 4 different circuits, okay? And we're about a third of the way through the season, and we've had a good long break until the next race in Sao Paulo on the 25th of March. So today I thought I would take a look at each of the 6 powertrains that are in Formula E and see which one has been the strongest so far this season. Now, if you don't know, there are 6 powertrains in Formula E. There's Porsche, Nissan, NIO, Mahindra, and Jaguar, I believe, are the 6. And these, with the exception of the NIO, the other 5 are shared between 2 teams. So Porsche is Porsche and Andretti, Nissan is Nissan and McLaren, DS is DS Penske and Maserati, and Jaguar is Envision and Jaguar, and Mahindra is Mahindra and APT. So those are the 11 teams, and of course NIO is the only one that uses the NIO powertrain. So let's get started.
So the first thing that I looked at was the amount of points that each car scored. So in order from most points to least points is Porsche with 51.5, Jaguar with 31.5, Nissan with 21, DS with 16, NIO with 9.5, and Mahindra with 6.5. So looking at this stat, I think it's clear that the Porsche is quite far ahead in terms of race pace. They have almost 20 points more than the next car, and they've also, which as a result of them contributing to, 4 of the 5 wins so far this year. So Jake Dennis's 1 win, Verline's 2 wins, and DaCosta's 1 win. So that's 4 wins out of 5 races, with Verne the only other driver to get a win. I think other interesting thing that I think with the Nissan powered cars and the DS powered cars, there's a massive difference between the two teams for each powertrain. So with the Nissan powered cars, McLaren's been pretty solid this year. They have 1 podium from Rene Rast, but they've been pretty solidly in the points almost every race this season. The Nissans, on the other hand, have been pretty poor, with the exception of Sasha Fennestras's pole at the Cape Town E-Prix. They haven't been absolutely fantastic this year. DS is another interesting one. So with DS, the DS Penske Works team has picked up the vast majority of the team's points, with Edo Mortara of Maserati only getting 3 points and Gunther getting 0 points. And of course, with Mahindra down in last, the vast majority of those points are from Lucas Degrassi's 3rd place, 15 points, at the Mexico City E-Prix, the opening race of Gen 3. Besides that, Mahindras have been pretty poor though, so I'm not surprised that they're at the bottom of this list. Next, I'm going to be taking a look at the average finish position. So this is the average position that each of the cars finished, and of course it's grouped by each of these 6 powertrains. So first we have Porsche, whose average finishing position is 6.6. Next is Jaguar with 7, Nissan was 3rd with 8.9, DS is 4th, 10.4, NIO is 5th, 12.4, and Mahindra is 6th last with 12.8. So there's not much real difference between, of course the ranking is exactly the same as the points per car list. However, it seems that the Porsche and the Jaguar are much closer at the top, with only 0.4 spots separating the two, and which suggests that Porsche is really reaping the rewards of getting those really high points-paying positions for 2nd and 3rd, while also maybe having some pretty poor results at the same time. Whereas the Jaguars have either DNF'd, so of course if a car DNF'd, they wouldn't count in this list, and they would just be ignored. So Bird's bowling incident at the Hyderabad E-Prix, where he took out himself and his teammate, they both retired, so they don't classify in here. maybe that's bringing up Jaguar's tally a little bit. But at the same time, it still kind of shows that in race trim, at least, the Porsche powertrain speed and efficiency is clearly the class of the field. And at the back, Neos and Mahindras are pretty close. That being said, I think if you did just Mahindra works team with Neo, they'd probably be ahead of the Neo. But the Apt team has been so poor this year that I think they're really dragging this total down. Now, the last category that I want to look at is average qualifying position. So this is the average position that each of the cars have qualified for the powertrains. And the ranking is actually quite different from the last two that I looked at. And of course, this is just looking at outright qualifying pace. So battery efficiency isn't taken into account in this ranking. Jaguar are first with 7.25. Nissan are second with 9.89 average average qualifying position. Porsche are third with an average spot of 10.85. Neo are surprisingly fourth with an average qualifying position of 11.8. DS are fifth with 11.85, and Mahindra are well off the back with 16.1. So I think the big takeaways from this are Jaguars looks like they've had the fastest car in qualifying, which I think checks out. They have pole positions from Buemi in Diriyah, from Evans and Evans in Hyderabad. So I think it really shows that either they haven't capitalized on their points, on their qualifying positions, which is partially true. Of course, the double DNF in Hyderabad hurt them a lot. Also, the Mitch Evans penalty, which was basically a team penalty, as well as Buemi's penalty in Hyderabad, hurt them a lot for both the average finishing position and the points per car. So I think it's a little bit of one half dozen of the other, where they haven't capitalized, but I think their race pace also isn't quite as good as the Porsche. Nissan are another interesting one. So they have two pole positions. They have this year, they have Jake Hughes in Diriyah, and they have Sasha Fenestraz from the most recent race in Cape Town. I think with Nissan, I think it's kind of closer. It's more of they've had some incidents where they haven't looked as good. So, for example, when Fenestraz basically took himself out on the last lap of the Cape Town E-Prix, or where he unfortunately was kind of taken out by Bird in Hyderabad. But also, they haven't looked fantastic either in the races. Rene Rast has really been the only one who's able to get consistent points finishes. Although that being said, Jake Hughes has also been pretty solid so far this year. Next is Porsche. So Porsche is a real big surprise. Even though they've been the best powertrain this year, they really haven't shown that in qualifying. And I think it's really a case of their efficiency is so much better than all the other cars on the grid that they're really able to qualify in those kind of middle 10 positions from 5th to 15th. And then regardless of where they qualify, they're easily able to work their way up into the top 5. And I think it really shows a bit of luck on their side that they haven't been involved in that many incidents outside of Bird getting, not Bird, Verline taking himself out at the last race, or Dennis getting taken out in Hyderabad by Rene Rast. But for the most part, they've been really excellent in the races, but very mediocre in qualifying. Neo, I think, is a big surprise, 11.8. With Neo, I think it's really mostly, they only have two cars, so their two drivers, Dan Ticktum and Sergio Sedicamar, have a bigger influence on this score than the other teams collectively, because for the other four teams, there's four drivers, so each of them only contribute 25%, but with Neo, there's only two, so they each contribute 50%. And Dan Ticktum's qualifying has probably been one of the most impressive surprises of this year. He's regularly qualified in the duels, and he's generally been much better than his teammate in qualifying. So I think that kind of heavily contributes to Neo being fourth and not lower. Fifth is DS, 11.85. And this has really been a combination of, I think, outside of John-Eric Burns' surprise win, they've really struggled to, and when he qualified very highly, I think he qualified on the front row that race in Hyderabad. But besides that, they've really struggled in qualifying, haven't really been able to get the setup to work in qualifying. and their customer team, Maserati, have not qualified particularly well this year. And last, quite a far ways off the back, Mahindra. So you notice that they're at 16.1. So they're almost over 4 grid positions below the DS. And if you take 4 higher than where DS, so that would be 7.85, that would get you right behind Jaguar. So the gap between second and fourth is as big as the gap between almost the gap between first and fifth is as big as the gap between DS and Mahindra. So it shows how far off the pace Mahindra is. And for Mahindra, they really, outside of Lucas Gibrassi's, looking at these numbers, miracle pole position in Mexico City, the powertrain has been quite poor all year. And basically, I don't think they've gotten any duels appearances. Maybe Roland might have 1 or 2 to his name, but the rest of them have struggled. The app cars have been basically glued to the back 2 or 3 rows of the grid for every qualifying session. It's been a real struggle for them.
So there you have it. That's my analysis of the Formula E powertrains so far this year. So I think on the whole, qualifying, Jaguar is strongest, but in the races, Porsche looks strongest. And it'll be interesting to see how this develops through the rest of the season. And I can definitely take a look at this at the end of the season to see how it compares to 5 rounds, through 5 rounds. So that's all for today's video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the Sao Paulo E-Prix in about a week and 2 weeks time from the recording of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.